Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of KickSaga. This is the series where we interview board game designers who are taking their creations to crowdfunding. We talk to them before the campaign launches to see what they did to prepare, and then we'll talk to them again after the campaign is over to see how things went, see if things panned out the way they had hoped, get some lessons learned, and all of that stuff. And today I'm excited to be talking to Tony Diaz of Nonymous Games. He's going to be talking to us about a game that he's going to be launching here in a couple days called Farrago. To kick things off, like we usually do, we like to just get a little bit of a background information on our guests. So if you can give folks the quick kind of history of you and how you got into the game design world.
Sure, no problem. Well, I've been a developer, web developer for over 30 years almost, and ran my own consulting firm for about 20. And I've also been, which is odd because I'm a very, very nerdy person, but I used to be a competitive martial artist and cyclist, competing at the world level, traveling all over. Um,
Mm.
Both fortunately and unfortunately, a lot of that was taken from me in the last few years. And so I was homebound and I was sitting there with not much to do. And I had all these ideas from playing games. I played all sorts of board games and video games. And I jotted down notes here and there about what would make a good game. What would I find appealing? What would be fun? What would my family find appealing and fun? And about 3 years ago, we had the opportunity to start building and designing our first game. And then we started building and designing more. So when we were ready to launch our first game last year, we started Nonymous Games, and then launched our first card game. It's been rolling ever since.
What was the name of that game?
So the first game was called Absolute. It is a card game it's actually a strategic card game where the concept is you're making sets of cards that sum to zero, but you're scoring based on the highest absolute number in that set. So you're actually balancing several metrics at once. There's swapping cards, so you can mess with other people's sets, and it gets pretty wild. But it's a very simple game. People get scared of math, and I actually had kids test it. And in fact, even the kids were like, "Oh, is this going to be homework?" And that was their first impression, almost all of them. But the math kind of takes a back seat, and it just ends up being you get used to pattern matching in cards, like many other card games.
Well, it's a bonus if you could sneak in some math in a otherwise fun game. That way, kids can learn a little bit as they're playing. Awesome. So that I assume went well because it's available and people can buy it. And
Yes, it's successfully funded on Kickstarter, and we were able to did our first production run, and we've been entering into the retail market. Only small mom and pop shop stores, local game stores, which I love and frequent often, probably too often. But
Sure.
I'm really glad that they're supporting us in the indie developers.
Very cool. So that was your first game. Is Farrago the second game?
Farrago, yes, yes. Farrago is our second game that we're releasing. We actually have total. We have 17 in development, which is pretty crazy.
Wow.
But we have three
Nice.
slated for this year, and Farrago is the one coming up
Okay.
next in the next 2 days.
Very cool. So tell us a little bit about Farrago.
So Farrago is a word trivia game. You have 8 lettered dice, and the concept is that you roll your dice, and you have 60 seconds. You or your team has 60 seconds to come up with answers that start with those lettered dice that fit the topic that you drew. If you don't use all 8 dice at the end of your 60 seconds, the other players or team can actually steal the remaining dice. They get 30 seconds steal round for any dice that remain, and then you can't score those. So it's a very fast-paced game. It can be played from 1 to 12 players, so it's a good party game. In fact, when we first envisioned the game, we envisioned them as the dice being these large soccer ball-sized dice that people would roll into the middle of the floor.
Nice.
But we've had to scale it back to start.
Very cool. I'm a big fan of word games, and there's been kind of a resurgence of word games with unique themes and different mechanisms and different twists on kind of the way word games can work. I love dice, so I love the combination of word game and dice. And it sounds like there's a cool piece of interaction there where, like, if you don't use all of your letters, other teams or the other player or other team can steal them and use them for themselves. So that's something that you don't see too often in word games, is that kind of direct player interaction and take in what other players don't use. So that's a very
Right.
cool twist on it. How long have you been working on this?
That one we've been working on for 2 years. We started playtesting about a year ago. While Absolute it was being released, we started getting playtests done for Farrago, and that was exactly it. We wanted. There's a lot of word games where they're one-sided and you're sitting there and waiting. Then we like classic word games like Boggle and Categories and Scrabble where you play all together. But we wanted to make it a little more interesting, where yet not only the main team is working on their words, but you're sitting there watching, waiting for your chance to steal any remaining
Mm,
dice. So you have to keep adjusting based on what they're answering. And the
nice.
game also has a simultaneous mode where basically all the players can play at once, and you only play with the 30-second timer, and you're grabbing the dice in the middle of the table as you announce your words. So it's
Oh, wow.
really flexible in its gameplay style.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that's an option for those who like that kind of crazy kinetic experience. But for those who are a little more reserved, you have the main mode that
Exactly.
still has that interaction. So that's cool. Um, awesome. So it sounds like the game came together pretty well. Does it look like it did when you got the idea for it? Did it change much? How
It
did the
looks
kind of the
very
development
much
process
so.
go? Yeah.
Yes, it hasn't
Good.
changed very much. In fact, the card designs went only through 3 iterations, which is really small. Our first card game went through 9 different iterations.
Mm,
But the readability was easy. We came up with these cards. In fact, I'll hold one up so you can see real quick. The cards end up having 5 different sectors, and the reason
okay.
why is because we didn't want to have 180 different category topic cards in a box.
Right.
So basically, you have these individual category cards that have 5 different topics on them. One of the dice included is a D10 that has 1 through 5 on it. So when you're rolling all your lettered dice, which are these kind of large D12s, 12-sided
Nice.
dice, you're also rolling this one die that determines which category you're doing. So there are 180 topics to
Gotcha.
go through. So it's a lot of variation. But yeah, no, the game itself looks very much as we originally envisioned it. About the only thing that's changed a lot is the rule book. It started really, really big, just because we were trying to cover all the edge cases with word
Uh huh.
games, which there are so many with word games.
Interesting.
But as we started, revising and revising, we're now on version 13 of the rule book, and now we're down
Nice.
to 6 pages, including the front cover and back. So it's like, yeah, we've got it real tight.
Very impressive. Yes, I know I've been through the process of putting together a rule book, and it's amazing how if you try to get every rule in there, how thick the rule book becomes. And you're like, I wanted this to be a light game or a party
Right.
game. And I have this super thick, dictionary size rule book. And then, yeah, the process of just trimming it down and finding ways to consolidate things and put diagrams in there and stuff is an art and a science and
Yes.
a lot of work, but a lot of fun, I found.
A dark magic, yes.
Yeah, there you go. So let's talk a little bit about your decision to self-publish. So, we hear a lot of stories about the nightmare it is to be a publisher and all the work that's involved and all the headaches that's involved and, all the things that aren't designing a game, which, can be the fun part. So I guess I'm just curious, at what point did you decide that you wanted to be a self-publisher? Did you ever consider pitching these games and that kind of thing?
For sure. In fact, I make a sell sheet with every game I make.
Hmm.
And that's on purpose, because not only do I want to try to publish, or pitch publishers if they're willing to carry the game, but it's also a good exercise in understanding your game, understanding how it's structured, how you're going to present it in a really concise, enticing format.
Oh, that's a
Um,
good tip. Yeah.
so it's just something it's always good to keep on the back burner, just to make that sell sheet, even if you don't use it.
Right.
But all that being said, we did try to approach publishers. It goes in waves as far as what publishers are interested in, and right
Mm.
now it seems that despite what we found is gamers seem to be going back to a lot of classic mechanics, and liking simpler party games that are easier to engage with without a lot of lead time. And so what we found a great uptake with our games that we've been testing over the last few years. But publishers are looking for games that have a really high margin, games that they can sell a lot of fancy componentry with a lot of good graphic design and enticing artwork in the box and the cards and things of that nature. Well, I just have dice. It's a fairly simple, straightforward game. The math to build it all and design it all, that took a lot. but
Right.
they're looking for things that will have that really high margin, so that they can sell an $80 box, or $90 game, and or they can upsell it with the fancy gold wrapping and embossed layouts. And I'm like, I just want to sell a good, replayable, easily accessible game that people can afford. You know,
Is that too much
um,
to ask?
right? Yeah, exactly. I don't
Yeah.
want to price out the market.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, there are places for those high, deep, Euro crunchy games that take you 5 6 hours. I love them too. I play D&D myself, but at the same time, sometimes you just want a game you can jump right into, teach your family, over a small gathering, play, and then put it on the shelf until the next time. And that's exactly what we're starting with.
Very cool. So, you know, folks who listen to the show regularly or who have been in the hobby space for a while know that publishers have to wear lots of hats. There's
Yeah.
just not only creating the game and the game design and the play testing, but there's, the graphic design for the game. There's the art and the illustrations. There's the rulebook editing. There's the, getting the components ready and all of that stuff. And then, of course, once you launch it, there's the marketing and all the stuff that goes along with that. So it requires a lot of disciplines and skills. So I'm curious: are you handling this all yourself? Do you have a team behind you? Who's handling what? That sort of thing.
Yeah, it's I would say 90 to 95% of it is me. I do work with a lot of other designers in the we're based in Oklahoma, so there's an Oklahoma tabletop designers group that we like to communicate with and share ideas with.
Nice.
So we do like rule book editing, exchanges of information that way. But as far as the design, the marketing, the build up, the e-commerce store, all of that,
Mhm.
I've spent, again, a long time working with companies from a holistic point of view, figuring out how they integrate their product line to online, to pitching, to marketing. So fortunately, I come from an experienced background with a lot of different hats. Having my hands in a lot of different cookie jars.
Right.
So that kind of lends itself well to what I've been having to do with the self-publishing. And I would also recommend that almost any designer, yes, go down the trying to find a publisher route, but going through the publisher route on your own, and figuring out how to do those things often makes you take a harder look at your game, because sometimes the componentry you want just won't work for production. Sometimes the box style you want won't really sit well on a shelf, or the colors you want to
Mm.
use won't be very accessible. So going through those exercises can help refine your game design as well as actually get the game out there in the end. But it's I'm a somewhat one man shop in that I do bounce ideas off my wife who works with me. She runs a finance and insurance consulting firm on her side. So she has a lot of the detailed work that she comes in and makes sure that I'm not missing anything. Um,
That's a good pairing there. Yeah.
yeah, and she's also the networky type. She loves talking to people. Me, I'm great
Mm.
one on one. I am not so good in large crowds. I try. I'm learning, and she's backing me up there. But we just did our first con as a vendor, and it was great having her there and watching her experience and seeing how she engaged with people.
Nice.
I have a lot to learn.
Nice. Well, that's good. That's good that you have a partner like that who can kind of pick up the slack in some areas that you might be weaker in, and vice versa.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's always good to find whether it's a life partner or just a partner in business or a friend who can kind of help you out with the things that you're weakest in.
for sure.
It seems like a lot of the successful Kickstarters that I've seen have had those kind of partnerships where different people play to their strengths, which is
Oh
very
yeah,
cool. So it looks like you're launching this on Kickstarter.
yes.
And I'm looking at kind of your getting coming soon page.
Mhm.
I'm curious what thought process you went through in designing the page, laying it out a certain way, and maybe like what lessons you learned from the previous game. Because did that one launch on Kickstarter as well?
Yes, that one also launched on Kickstarter. I'd say the biggest
Yeah.
lesson we learned is not to give everything all at once.
Mm,
People want to be enticed by the game and the concept more than the minutia of the game. Some When it comes to the bigger, heavy, crunchy games, yes, those minutiae count. They really want all that, but they need to buy in first. And so, on this Kickstarter, we've scaled back, and we wanted to make sure that we're presenting the game in the way the game actually feels to play. It's fast paced. It's interactive. You don't feel like you're sitting around waiting for long turns. So we laid out the page in a way that would show and present the game in that way. You're seeing up front everything that it includes. It's not a really heavy box. It doesn't have a lot of componentry to it. And we'll make sure to present that because we want to make sure that you're seeing what you're going to get. Obviously, we're using the prototype model on there, but it's about a concise presentation more than an everything presentation.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense, especially for kind of a party slash word game where
Right.
it's really about the feeling of fun and just kind of, I want it to be quick and I want it to be simple to set up. And so just throwing all that out at the beginning seems like a good move. I feel like it kind of speaks to me and I can get what I need from it very quickly. I see the definition of Farrago here. Can you tell folks what that word is and why you chose it for the name of the game?
Yeah, so I was originally going to name the game Hodgepodge because it's a group of
Mm,
answers for a topic, or and there's some other ways of playing where you can play multiple topics and multiple answers. And so I didn't like the word hodgepodge. It didn't feel good when I was saying the words and I was writing it down. And so I tried to look for synonyms, and I came across the word Farrago, which means a hodgepodge or a medley, a
interesting.
confused mixture.
Yeah.
And that kind of felt great because you're rolling dice on the board, and that feels confusing. It felt like it matched more with the game. Interesting story. I hadn't heard of that word before, but
Hmm.
after choosing it that same week, I read 3 different articles that used that word.
Okay.
Observation bias is such a weird thing.
Yes, that is funny because I don't think I've ever seen that word either, but I'm sure I've come across it and just kind of glossed over it
All right, later
because,
this week, guaranteed you'll read an
yeah,
article.
that is so funny. That's awesome. And now I have a new Scrabble word in my quiver that I
There
can
you go.
pull out when I do play a word game. Can you spell Farrago in Farrago?
You can. In fact, on the cover, I actually have the dice spelling Farrago.
Ah, nice. I didn't catch that. Nice. Perfect. Very cool. Okay. So it's good that you had kind of the experience of the last Kickstarter to inform some of your decisions this time around. Since it's such a simple game, are you doing any kind of, uh, you know, um, different pledge levels or stretch goals or anything like that, or is it basically just the game and that's it?
We're sticking with the main game because we want to make sure to get the production done as soon as possible and get it in the hands of players as soon as possible. We did consider doing things like the fancy foil cards, embossed boxes, upgrades, things like that. But none of those things were changing the fundamentals of the game. And coming up with the topics takes a really long time because they have to actually be tested. And I actually wrote a computer program to actually do a lot of the testing.
Nice.
No, none of this is done with AI. I've been a programmer for a long time, so I did the research and developed the metrics to actually design the dice letter combinations and choose the topics and test them. So,
Very cool.
because of that, we're not, adding more topics to the initial box would take longer to do. We're
Right.
actually already heading into production. And because we want to actually get this into people's hands by August, we're not, we don't want to wait.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Nice.
when you do a lot of these higher tier and or stretch goals, you have to wait until the whole campaign is finished before you can figure out what you actually need to produce. So our game is already solid. The packaging is done. We know how the dice are going to be produced. They're going to be silk screened. We have our manufacturer ready. So we said, you know what? Let's get this rolling so we can start getting all our assets over and done. That does mean that we're not going to have, maybe fancy upgrades, but we feel the game itself is very solid and ready to go. We do have an expansion already planned for the game. We are working on more categories, and we're working on a challenge cube or a challenge die, so you can replace out one of the letters and make the game more interesting and have different gameplay formats. But again, the game
Very cool.
itself, we want it to just launch as it is.
Very cool. Yeah, that makes sense, especially for a game like this. I mean, there's really no need to have super uh, deluxe components or anything like that. So, about what price range is this going to fall in, do you think?
The initial backing is going to be $28, and then we're going to do. I believe we're selling 2 for $50 as a small discount, and then that's pretty much it. We only have the 2 tiers, and I believe we're also offering our absolute as an add-on because shipping will be included in that. So. Yeah, it's we're trying to keep the price low. You'd be surprised how much it costs to produce a custom D12. I was getting
Oh
quotes as high
yeah.
as $16 a die when I first started making
Yikes.
this. I'm like, I can't do that.
Right. Okay. Great. So let's switch gears a little bit to kind of building the audience for this. So let's talk about what you've done through the life of the existence of Nonymous Games, and then specifically for this game, what have you done to build an audience or get the word out? As far as running ads or doing any kind of marketing and that kind of thing. Talk about your approach to that.
Sure. So a lot of I'd say the vast majority of our work is organic. Between playtesting and sending out copies to family and friends and people we don't even know. Just they see the game, they see us push on Facebook or on Instagram. Hey, would you like to check the game out? And then we'll send them a copy to check out for a while. The majority has been organic. We have tried some Facebook and meta marketing. Unfortunately, the ROI was just not there. We were not getting any playthrough, and the ads looked nice. They were clean. I ran it through a couple of marketers who I know, and they said, yes, your placement looks good. It looks enticing. That definitely is a good ad, but it wasn't converting. So I'm like,
Mm.
it's not going to be worth it. About the biggest following we had was when we did our first convention, and that was recent over at we did TokenCon in Midwest City, and that went very, very well. We had people wanting to buy the game right there. We don't have the game yet, but they were
Right.
really, really happy with it, and that's what we've mostly found is when we get into people's hands, they want to buy it. Unfortunately, that doesn't always translate to people wanting to log into a Kickstarter and follow it or sign up for an account.
Yeah.
So it is a lot of you have to keep going back to the well and keeping people engaged.
Yeah, I can see a game like this is really one you have to experience. It's hard to get the feeling or the point across through just images or graphic ads or whatever. So I can see that would be a challenge. It doesn't, it's not like those Facebook ads with a pile of minis or a huge board with a bunch of colors on it and stuff. Those probably do perform better, I would think, than just some dice with letters on it. It's hard to kind of convey
Exactly.
what that is. So yeah,
Whereas
that kind of tracks to what I would expect.
Yeah, I mean, in our booth, people would literally walk up, look at the game, and we'd say, if you have a minute and a half to play, we can show you how this goes. And
Yeah.
we'd have them play right there. And they're like, oh, wow, it's so quick. It's so engaging. So yeah, once you do it, it's great. But getting people to understand that with, in a static picture or even a short video, it's like, well, it's a simple game. You just have to engage in with it to play. And that's exactly what we're going for. So a lot of it has been, personal and word of mouth.
Yeah, so I could see your games doing very well at conventions, at the booth where you can get
Sure.
people to play it and just do the impulse buy, right? Of oh, that's a lot of fun. Let me buy it right now. And you said you heard that, so I can see also why you want to get this produced very quickly so you can have it in
Exactly.
your hands to be able to sell it. Awesome. So on the show we like to talk numbers. So if you could share kind of the follower counts you have on the Kickstarter page, on your various social media accounts, in your newsletter, and then that way we can see how those translate to backers at the end of the campaign.
For sure. We have about 300 followers on our newsletter, about a little under 200 for Facebook, about half that on Instagram, I'd say about 100 or so. I haven't checked in the last few days. We have maybe half of that, probably 50 or so on YouTube. I am horrible at making videos. I spent an hour one time trying to make a 30-second video. It was a
Oh,
nightmare. Um,
I completely understand.
and I believe
Yeah.
we're over 60 followers on the Kickstarter. That's not nearly as many as I'd want, but I could say that of almost any number I call out.
Yeah.
That'll never be as much as I want. We didn't have very many followers on our first game on Absolute. However, I could say that all of them converted. So it was really nice to see that the
Nice.
followers we do get they're there to buy the game. So that's really nice.
What goal are you looking at as far as number of backers, do you think?
I would like to get at least 250 to 300 backers
Okay.
to make this a success. That won't cover everything that we're putting into the production and the shipping and the Kickstarter fees, but we're already heading to production.
The ship
So
has sailed.
right,
Yeah.
the more we can offset, the better, the faster and better it will be to get into the retail market. So yeah, ultimately we're shooting for 250 or so. Ideally, I'd like to clear 350 as far as backers to ultimately buy.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's what we're going for.
Yeah, hopefully you get some of those newsletter subscribers to convert. I assume so. A handful of those are those who backed your previous game, so
Exactly.
that should translate. A lot of times your best future backers or your previous backers is what I've heard. So
That's
that
kind of the goal.
yeah, absolutely.
And it's
What
why
are
we
your
started with the two
plans?
games. Mhm.
What are your plans for during the campaign? Do you have anything planned? Any videos or interviews that you're going to do, or anything to kind of keep the momentum going through the campaign?
We do. We have a few email promos that are going out. I don't like to spam our email list. I only really send out one newsletter a month, and then maybe I'll send out another announcement in between there. So in this case, during the 40-day run, we will have about 3 different emails that go out. We have multiple posts already lined up for Facebook, Instagram, and a couple of videos. A how-to video we'll be releasing, how to play, I should say, as well as some short playthroughs that are 1 round playthroughs that I tested doing before, where we just film rolling the dice and inviting everyone to kind of play online in real time.
Oh, that's cool. That's fun. Yeah, that's I know like Jamie Stegmaier has a lot of success doing that with his Rolling Realms game, where every
Yeah, yeah,
week he'll play the Rolling Realms game with everyone else on YouTube on a YouTube live. So that's a cool opportunity to get people to actually like get the experience of playing the game before they get it in their hands.
exactly.
Very cool. Okay. So what would, other than getting to the 250, 350 backers at the end of the campaign, what else are you looking for as an indication of, okay, I feel good that this was a successful campaign, this went the way I wanted it to?
Well, beyond that, I would love to get some, more public feedback once they get the games. We've already had it in people's hands for almost a year now, about 11 months. So I'd say we've already done probably upwards of 350 to 400 playtest sessions.
Mm,
Between
yeah.
individuals just handing it out,
Wow.
between us involved, it's so easy to get in, to get into. And actually, another thing, my wife runs a monthly game night networking at the local game store, Oinkers Island. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it. Oinkers Island. And so every month she brings one of our games to test along with her networking friends. So we always get new people involved. So yeah, for me, the indicator would be making sure that the retailers in the region see it, that they respond to it, that they want to carry it. That to me would be an indicator of success.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds sounds very reasonable. We have folks who listen to the show who are kind of new to the game design space, and they're like, "Oh man, I have this great idea for a game. I'm gonna, you know, create it, develop it, play test it, launch it on Kickstarter, and make it a reality." They're looking at maybe a simple game like yours that has very few components, and you know they have an expectation that's going to be quick and easy and and not much of an investment. So I just wanted to get kind of a realistic idea from you. How much of an investment have you made into creating the game, creating the prototypes, doing the marketing for it, getting everything ready to go, going to conventions, all of that stuff. If you could kind of put a price tag on what it would cost someone to take a game like yours from idea to launching, ballpark figure, what would be a
For sure.
realistic number for folks?
So for Farrago, I was just looking at our numbers earlier, and we were at about 700 in development costs. That's just
Mhm.
for the game alone. That's for all the prototypes, generating multiple versions, the shipping back and forth to different people to play test. The shipping alone is a good portion. You
Yeah.
also have to buy your UPC code, so that's $30
Mm,
there, right?
right.
So yeah, we have about $700 in the prototyping and development of the game itself. Maybe about a little over 200 we've with the advertising for Meta, which again,
Mhm.
the views are one thing, click throughs are one thing, but if people aren't actually going to sign up to be notified and so on, you're not doing anything with it.
Right.
And then there's the convention. So we went to our first convention as a vendor. We had one product for sale, and then we had two other games. We had Farrago with us for demo, and we had a third game, Sporadic, which is coming out later this year, also for demo and playtest. as well as we do resin pouring and handmade dice. So we had some little other things to sell as well. But things to consider are the one-time costs if you're going to do a convention. So you have to have things like your backdrops, your tables, the risers, the boards, productions, things of those natures. By the time all that's said and done, you probably have one-time costs around $1,000 just to get the materials for a nice booth, for a nice, comfortable booth. Then there's the cost of the con itself, which at Token Con, it was a 4-day convention for a 10 by 10 space, and that was $330 for that 10 by 10 space. We stood at the hotel across the way as opposed to the main hotel, so we saved money there, but you have to consider the hotel fees, you have to consider your food. All said and done, I want to say the total cost for excluding our one-time purchases for the convention were around $950. And then for that convention, I don't count the one time because we're planning on using those obviously multiple times, the backdrops, the covers, things of that nature.
Right.
With that included, even with saving as much money as we could, I'd say we're around $1,600 with everything out of pocket. So not bad for the first convention.
Yeah. No, that's not bad at all. Actually, that's a pretty good. That's definitely on the very low end of kind of investment. Yeah, no, that's great. And there's those kind of those hidden costs that people don't think of at the beginning: the signage, the stuff to put in the booth, and then of course the hotel and all the stuff that kind of adds up on top of that for conventions. So that can kind of add up really quickly, especially if you planning on going to multiple conventions throughout the year. So great. So yeah, you found a way to make it work relatively on a budget, which is great. But again, there's still some investment that needs to be made. It's not something that you can just do, for free. It's a business you're running. So there's some investment that you need to do. So that's great. So that gives folks a good idea of, for a game of this weight and kind of a party word game, what could be involved in getting to the point where you are now. Awesome. So I look forward to following up with you after the crowdfunding event is over. We can see how things went, lessons learned, and then you can kind of talk about what you have prepared for the future. Anything else you want to convey to folks before we wrap up?
Just that if you are thinking about going into game design, give it a shot, but always pull it back. Come back from the precipice and think about the how. Don't go to the deep end first. A lot of people like to spend years working on that 4X deep game with all the trimmings, but start small, work your way up from there. Oftentimes, you'll save yourself a lot of heartache, and then you'll be much more prepared to work on that deep game when your skills are now up to that task.
It sounds like you might have some plans to go that route as well.
One or two, yeah.
Very cool. Okay, well, we'll talk about that when we follow up with you after the Kickstarter. But for now, we'll have a link to the Kickstarter page in the show notes below, as well as a link to Nonymous Games page if they want to follow along with any future plans you guys have. So, Tony, thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to following up with you after the campaign.
Thank you. It's been great talking to you.
And thank you guys for watching another episode of KickSaga. Be sure to click that subscribe button below so that you can get notified when we do Tony's follow-up, as well as future episodes where we talk with other game creators about their journey to crowdfunding. Bye for now.